Thanks. Should I leave my mic muted or unmuted?
Sophia, you can mute yourself because it'll
Okay.
be up to you when you want to ask a question or speak. So we can hear
Okay,
you
perfect.
fine. And then
Okay.
we are live streaming at the moment. And then if we get a break for lunch, then you can turn your video off and come back at 1.
Yeah. But keeping it off when
Thank
you're
you.
not speaking, it keeps you know hearing papers ruffling and everything. But remember, if you're going to speak, and I'll look to you to see, put up your hand if you want to make a motion or second a motion. It's a bit of a
Okay.
time delay, so I'll wait to see, because last week Mishi was making motions, but I'd see Dawn's hand first. So just
Okay.
put your hand up, but I'll watch for you. So welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Nice doing it from home.
For anyone
Yes.
participating today, this is Sophia Ruddock, our new committee member. This is her first hearing. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, it's past 9:30. We're starting a little earlier because we have a long agenda and we have a number of items that were deferred from July the 14th when we lost connectivity. So I'll start off with the opening remarks. Good morning. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings continue to be conducted publicly, but they are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. We have one member on video. We have myself, the chair, and 2 other members here and present to make sure we have quorum. And any registered participants will be participating by audio only, and we ask that you mute your devices until you are called on to speak, because otherwise, we're going to hear rustling of papers and little movements. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the lands we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to the property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever properties to create new lots. Anyone who wishes to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, your address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, and in some limited circumstances to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, or LPAT. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. So how we proceed is we'll go in order. We started item 1. We have Before us this morning, let's see where the cutoff is, but anyway, we have, we go in order. In the virtual world, we do not vet the agenda like we do when we have people here in public. So when an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will either proceed with a presentation if required. If it's very straightforward, I'll ask committee members if they feel if they need a presentation. If not, we'll proceed directly to see if they have any questions for the applicant when an application is unopposed. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, is given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. And Mr. Palmer on my right, who is watching the clock, will comment when you're approaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please state clearly your name, address for the record, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. We deal with planning matters. We don't deal with construction issues or foundations or water or personal issues between neighbors. The applicant, where a matter is contested, we have people here with concerns or in opposition. The applicant or agent proceeds first, makes a presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised in order to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the applicant are informed of the changes, and as well to see that, make sure that the variances are properly identified. Then individuals either in support or usually opposed to the application will be invited to speak, and committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they finish their presentation. When all speakers with concerns or in opposition have spoken, the applicant or agent is given an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. Again, it's a 5-minute time limit. However, if there were, let's say, 10 speakers opposed, I will use my discretion, if necessary, to give the applicant more time to deal and respond to the issues raised by the neighbors. Okay. Okay, to introduce the members today, on my left is Don Taylor. On my right, Neil Palmer. Virtually, we have Sophie Ruddick, who is our new member, and this is her first meeting, so welcome. And I am Michael Clark, and I'm your chair. We have some housekeeping matters to take care of before we get started with today's matters. First of all, I guess we have the minutes to approve of both the July 22nd and the July 30th minutes. Can we do that in one motion, Madam Secretary Treasurer? So can I have a motion for approval of both sets of minutes?
I'll move approval of both sets of minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. All in favor? Okay, the minutes are approved. Do any of the committee members or staff have any conflicts of interest on the matters before us on this morning's agenda? And again, this morning's agenda goes up to item number 16. No? Okay. Madam Chair, are there any, we'll deal with deferral requests as we go through the agenda unless you have some.
Yeah.
Okay. And closing files, are there any files to be closed on this
None today.
agenda? Okay, thank you. Okay. So in that case, we can get started. First application is item number 119 Clay Court. This is an application for a detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 11 variances. Urban Forestry is requesting condition number 1. Planning has advised that they have no objection to the revised plans and variances. That was on May the 27th. Mrs. Evangelista, are you with us?
I am.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
How are you today?
We're
I'm here on behalf of the owners of 19 Clay Court.
okay. I see we have a number of people in support. We do have an objection I had note of here. And
Yes.
perhaps you can, just because this matter, there's been revised variances, I take it, so perhaps you want to walk us through the changes that have been made?
Okay, so what we've done is we have removed the length of the home. So we're dealing with an irregular lot. And because of the irregular lot, it's triggered a few variances, such as our rear yard setback. However, our rear yard setback starts at 5.694, which is what we are asking for, but goes up to 10.512. We have reduced the platform. As you see, we have letters of support from the neighbors beside us, in front of us, and behind us.
Mhm.
And I am aware of the letter from the owners at number 10. However, this area, so what we're proposing here is a home, a two-story home with a gable roof with dormers, okay? So that said, our main wall height is taken to the top of the ridge, at the center line of the ridge on the gable roof, on the gable wall, and that's what's creating that main wall height, which number 10 is opposed to. However, if you're standing at the street and you're looking at the house, you'll see that there's a memo that I submitted and to planning with changes that we had made. We had removed the length. We made the platform area smaller. We brought down the FSI. And now if you're standing in front of the house and you're looking at the house, the main wall height at the front of the home is 5.01, which is substantially lower than, you know, what is required. So we have modified this home, made many modifications. We do have planning and support. As you see, we do have, it is a court, and we have majority of the neighbors that are in support of this home. And, and planning again, and transportation has no comments.
Right, and I see I mentioned there were several objection letters listed in my summary, but it looks like it's the same letter from two neighbors at the same address.
Correct.
So in my
That's
list here, it
correct.
looks like we
The
have
same
4
letter.
letters, but it's really only 1 letter.
That's correct, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Okay, Mrs. Evangelista, let's see if thank you for that. I'm going through that. Please, let me see if committee members have any questions for you. No? Or if are we ready for a motion?
Sorry, I just had a question for the applicant. Looking at this application and the site plan, and you're indicating the rear yard setback is, I guess, from the tightest point of the rear of the house. So if we're going to approve this, can we tie this to a certain site plan? And what is the date of that site plan?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would be amenable to having that as a condition, and the date of the site plan I have is August 26th.
Or you should usually
Perhaps
show the
staff
date
can
stamp
confirm
when it
that.
was received by the city? Isn't that how you normally identify?
I don't think
through
it
you,
can
Mr.
be
Chair,
August 27th because we haven't reached that date. The one we have on file is May 27th.
Yeah.
August 2019, though. I neglected to state
No.
the year.
So
My apologies.
the site plan we have on file before the committee revised was submitted May 27, 2020.
And that's,
Right.
I think that's what the date
Exactly.
that planning
Which-
refers to in their memo.
Right, exactly. And that's the date that's on the actual drawing, so we're all good.
Yeah. That's based on their May 28th memo. And I think that's actually, it was a good suggestion because as you explained, it's not the same all the way across, so. Okay, so you're amenable to that, so that's good. So are you ready? Any other
Yes, I am.
questions? Or are you ready to make a motion based on that? No. We only have Mrs. Evangelista registered as a speaker on this application. We do have the letter, which is one letter that I have 4 times in my notice package. So we only have the one letter still in opposition. Oh, sorry. July 6th is also 16 Plumstead Court.
I'm comfortable to move a motion for approval. The variances requested are minor in nature and meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. That's subject to the forestry permit number 1. And it's tied to the site plan dated May 27th, 2020.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Palmer. Was a seconder for that motion. Sophie Reddick, all in favor? You have unanimous approval, Mrs. Evangelista. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. You too.
Thank you. Okay, our next application is item number 2, 16 BERL Avenue.
Yes.
And we have registered speaker Rick Bongers, only one party registered for this. So there's no one here in opposition. Let me just introduce the matter. This is a application to construct a second-story addition above the existing dwelling, and there are 2 variances. And Urban Forestry is looking for condition number 1, and we do have some photos in support, an arborist report, planning report, and letter of support. It's actually a petition of support signed by various neighbors. Mr. Bongers.
Yes.
Good morning. Committee members, do you would you like a presentation, Mr. Bongers?
Planning Department is recommending refusal of variance 2. So I want to hear some justification for that variance, why we should be approving that.
Okay. We obviously will always try and work in a cooperative, respectful arrangement with the planning department. I did speak with the homeowners in this case about the planning department's concerns on the sidewall height. They were a little puzzled with that, being that sort of the inspiration for the design came from homes actually within the neighborhood. They really like the sort of appearance of the home. The sidewall height variance is basically just the top portion of roof gable we're asking for permission for. You know, it's that side gable roof is what puts us over as considered the sidewall. You know, it's actually a gable end for all intents and purposes. If we shift that portion at the top, it actually, I feel will look, it really compromises the appearance of the home and the overall design aesthetics. We are under on our height to ridge in any case. That's important to note as well. It's just that existing sidewall height, the upper portion of that gable, that's putting us over the top. I feel aesthetically and from the streetscape with the massing of that front gable, which is obviously we're allowed. I don't feel there will be a lot of attention or noticeability of that sidewall upper portion of gable.
Okay, Mr. Bongers, I note here that this matter was supposed to be heard prior to COVID, March 26th. The staff report is dated March 19th. Did you contact staff to explain this to them and have them reconsider or agree to something, perhaps if it was tied to a plan, so that it's only in a certain area as you're explaining? Have you done anything since March 19th when you received this report to deal with planning on this?
Yeah, from what I understand from the homeowners is they submitted several photographs of homes within the neighborhood supporting this style of home, and there wasn't really any correspondence back regarding.
Okay, that's after the. No. Okay. Any further questions for Mr. Bongers?
Again, similar to the question I asked the last applicant, do we have a site plan date that we can tie any approval to so that it's limited to the that one fixed elevation on the side wall?
Well, you can tie it to the drawings that were submitted.
Well, yeah, not all the drawings, though. Mr. Palmer's suggesting that, I guess, is it an elevation plan or a...
We don't have multiple versions of plans on file, so if you want it to a site plan or elevations, you can just say to the elevations, because there won't be a discrepancy versus which one, or the site plan.
Yeah, I just feel a little uncomfortable tying it to every plan that's submitted if they want to do a little bit of tweaking here and there that's in compliance with the bylaw.
So which one are,
I'm looking at the side elevation. I think it's A16 maybe. Is that the correct one? A16 and A15?
The north is, I believe it's drawing A15, and the south elevation is A60.
So you can label it the north and south
Yeah,
elevations.
north and south elevations. Anyways, that's my question, so we can, you know what, I don't know the dates on these. Okay. All right, I'm comfortable from hearing from the applicant to move a motion if there's no further questions.
Okay, we have a motion.
Okay, I'll move for approval, seeing that the variances requested are minor and meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. And it's subject to, I guess, the forestry condition number 1 for a city tree permit.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Palmer. Someone to second Mr. Palmer's motion. Mr. Taylor? All in favor? Okay, sir, you have a unanimous approval based on that condition tying it to that plan.
All right. Thank you
We
very
have
much.
urban forestry condition number 1, and,
Yes.
well, yeah, no, it's subject to the, well, that was what we were just discussing, so it's, okay, so you amend your.
Okay,
motion,
so can I just amend that motion? So it's, the approval is per the forestry condition 1 and tied to the north and south elevations.
Okay, and we have sufficient identification for that, Madam Secretary Treasurer? Okay, and Mr. Taylor's okay, so again, all in favor, okay. So you have your approval unanimously, subject to that condition. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, item number 3 is 27 TWYFORD Road. It's an application to construct a detached dwelling with an integral garage. This matter was before the committee back in April 2019. There was a prior decision granting numerous variances, 3 variances, and now the applicant is coming back for 2 more variances dealing with height. Urban Forestry is asking for condition number 1, and also planning is recommending refusal of the application. We have renderings, and we have an email to planning. We have support, and we have the planning report dated August the 4th, as well as opposition from the neighbor at 16 Plumstone Court. And with us, Marco Vieira. We only have 1 party registered, but we do have a letter of opposition, and we do have the negative planning report. Welcome, Mr. Vieira.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Okay, can you walk us through, you've seen the planning report? That
Yes, I have.
they
I've
don't
seen-
want to, they're not recommending that you get any variances beyond what you got in April 2019. I don't know, were you the agent on that application?
Yes, I was. I can
Okay,
give you a
so
little bit
perhaps
of a
you can
brief
give us a
history.
presentation of what you're requesting here and why it should be, why it's worthy of support notwithstanding the planning memo.
Okay, thank you. So once again, my name is Marco Vieira. I am the agent and the designer for this application. I was the agent on the application last year. We're asking for an increase at 8.58 as the as-built condition. Now, this portion of the 8.58 height only applies to 2 small portions of the dwelling. It's a atrium, which is on the east side of the dwelling, in the middle of the dwelling, and the master bedroom, which is located
Right.
the southwest corner of that dwelling. During the construction, even though we've had floor-to-ceiling heights shown on all the floor plans and elevations, the contractor has mistakenly taken the height from first floor to the second floor, but he actually did it first floor to the other side of the ceiling. So what's happened is he didn't account for the 12-inch joist of the floor. So that brought up the finished first floor and then the second floor. So when we were approached with this,
Mr. Vieira, we're hearing some feedback all of a sudden. It's getting worse.
Okay, can you
That's,
hear me now?
yeah, were you moving around or something, or there was like feedback, echoing?
No, I wasn't. Guys,
Do you have multiple devices on?
Oh, that's better.
hold on a sec, I'll check.
Yeah, you just turn off the YouTube, it's better now.
Somebody on the internet? Anybody on? No, just me. Is that
Okay,
better?
so Mr. Vieira, this
Is
is
that
now,
better?
this is under construction, it's already been built now?
It is 90% built.
Okay.
The house, roof, and the exterior cladding is done.
We're getting the feedback again.
Maybe if I step back, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'll just step back away from the computer. Just let me know if you can still hear me.
That's better. So,
I'll back up a little bit.
so is there anything in your materials that shows where where the height violation is, that it's not across the whole property, the whole structure, just in, you said 2 small spots?
Correct.
Because we need to be able to see where that is in order to make the decision, and even perhaps in the event of an approval, to show where this is taking place, so that you don't get holus bolus approval across the whole lot for these height variances.
So if you refer to page A5, which shows the roof plan, on that submitted material, and also we had this discussion with planning, we've outlined the different roof areas in which the heights are being taken to.
Okay.
And the remaining portion of the dwelling is in compliance with the the variances that were given before. It's just those 2 sections that become the highest point of the house. And when you take those heights, those 2 small portions is what bringing that variance. And to the front of this house, there is no visual change because you can't see that additional change. Those to the right of us are much wider and higher and have flat roofs on the top, and they are still significantly higher than we are. Now, originally, back in May, I had some discussion with planning, and we've exchanged some elevations, renderings, and then it kind of went dormant. We didn't hear anything until July 30th when we got the letter that was sent in. And there's nothing for us to be able to give up in this particular case because the existing, this new house is virtually, it's built. And from Plumstead's side of you, to just address the neighbor's concern, my client has engaged the neighbor, have spoken, and they're entering into an agreement to provide some large landscaping along the back.
Is this the neighbor who's written the letter?
Yes, at Plumstead.
Plumstead. So
there's a huge difference in grade. To the back, there's about a 4-meter drop. So these houses that face Twyford are 2 stories in the front, but because of the huge drop between Twyford and Plumstead, the houses are much lower. And that's why, my client has discussed that with the neighbor and has agreed to provide mature planting along the property line to just give her some visual screening.
Okay. Well, they still have they haven't retracted their letter of objection, but can you look at their letter and look at the last picture? And they show what their view is. So this additional, they say in their letter, you're going 2 meters higher than permitted. I guess maybe they talk about what you got at committee. Incorrect. I guess you got a height variance at committee, but they're implying that this extra height is across the whole property. So they don't seem to at least understand as of the date of they wrote this letter, July the 6th. So you're saying you've had some further overtures with them, and that you're now going to do some planting. They're still going to have that view, but if you look at those pictures they've given, you're saying the view is no different than what the view would have been or was under the April 2019 approval.
Correct. And that rear portion of the second image, where you can see that it's got the portion of the master bedroom on the left-hand side.
Yep.
That's that little portion that is over in that height. And their property, because it's much lower and there's the planting, it actually only see the top half of that house. So visually, that impact is always going to be there because of the change in grade.
Okay. Yes. Okay, thank you for that explanation, Mr. Vieira. Let's see if committee members have any questions for you. Yes, Mr. Taylor.
Yes, sir. I'm looking at drawing number A5 from the building permit drawings, the roof plan.
Yes. Yes.
Can you tell me, in the context of that drawing, which sections of roof would be getting benefit from the relief that you're seeking today?
So that's so if you're looking at the
There's
bottom of
there's
the
some
page,
hatched areas, there's some cross-hatched areas.
correct. So those hatched areas is where the master bedroom and the atrium ceiling heights are. Those are the highest part of the dwelling. The rest of
That's the
lowest is lower.
cross-hatched areas,
Exactly.
two of them.
Correct.
So it's about 1/5 of the whole roof, roughly. A quarter, maybe.
Yeah, less than a quarter.
Yeah, I also see a letter from Pedro Torres, the architect, I guess, on the project dated August the 5th, saying that he confirms, like what you said, the height variance is only taken to the top of atrium and top of master bedroom. The rest of the house is in compliance with the height. Parapet at the front are not in height compliance with the bylaw for allowable parapet height.
Correct.
So
and
that's...
that was part of our correspondence back with planning.
Yes.
And that's why we provided a rendering to them too, to see what this house was looking like and what was going to be with finished materials.
Yep.
And along the way, we lost correspondence until neighbor wrote a letter, and then subsequently we got the planning letter that was then addressed.
Okay. Yeah, you also mentioned some discrepancy because they talk about the master bedroom at the front, but it's at the back, obviously.
Well, right. It's
okay,
the
so
letter
we've identified
refers to
then a
master
plan
bedroom in
that
the
we
front.
can refer to ensure that the height variance in this application is only with respect to those 2 points. Mr. Taylor just asked a question about and you said it's about 20%? You made it sound like it's less than that, but you're saying the height variance is with respect to 20% of the roof by your estimation. So any further questions, Mr. Palmer?
Just a question for staff. Is there any way we can tie this approval to the appropriate landscaping at the rear of the dwelling?
Again, we haven't seen any. You're saying you've reached an agreement with the neighbor to do some landscaping, but it's not something that typically we get involved with if it's an agreement between neighbors.
Yeah.
We do. They haven't retracted their objection letter, whatever that means in any event, but which you would have thought if you made an agreement, you would have asked them to withdraw their letter. But in any event, it is what it is.
This
Yeah.
just happened yesterday, so
Yeah,
we didn't
but
get that
I see.
letter.
Okay.
And we
But-
don't have a landscape variance or an issue in the
Yes.
rear yard, so as
Yeah,
long as they
typically-
comply with the bylaw.
Yeah, like even if we had a letter here from the neighbor saying, yes, in exchange for this, I agree not to object, and I'm in a complete agreement with the application, and I'm very happy. Committee would typically not impose a condition that is not being requested by a city department, and we wouldn't necessarily, would go by a private, that's between them. I don't know how they document it, but we appreciate Mr. Vieira advising us of that, but I wouldn't take that as that's something because it's not before us. We have no knowledge and no privity on that, and there, like you say, nothing has been signed because it was just agreed to yesterday.
Correct.
So
Yeah, that's where my my concern is with the rear of the dwelling, not necessarily the front of the dwelling. That's where my concern
So,
is.
Mr. Vieira, was there any specificity, like with respect to what the plan is? Was there actually a plan done? Was it a reference to certain conifers with a height of X number of feet? Like, what was agreed to?
That's correct. Well, my client has retained landscape architect in which we are landscaping the back half of the property. And this was a concern we knew of the first committee of adjustment. So planning was always talking about the height, and we always ensured the neighbors that we would put evergreens along the back property line, and that they would be 15 to 20 feet in height, and also provide different types of trees with different foliage, so that it's not just an evergreen wall that doesn't change with the seasons. It would be different types of trees native trees that would be planted along the property lines at our cost, obviously. And that would give the neighbors to the back a visual interest without having to look at the house that they may not like.
Okay, well, the neighbor from 16 Plumstead, who they didn't seek to participate today to ensure that their concerns were being addressed.
Right.
They didn't want to be part of that. Like, do you have anything in, between you? Because otherwise I have to instruct the members that is if we don't have, because there's nothing before us, we have this objection letter that they haven't retracted, and we don't have anything from them, and they have nothing from you that we are aware of, committing to anything in particular or even in general. So we just have to proceed with what we have before us here today. Like typically in this situation, if the Mr. and Mrs. Bland, who were from 16 Plumstead, would be on the line and confirm, yes, we're now okay, and we realize this is not for the whole 2 meters higher along the, or even the overage is not for the whole property.
Correct.
Seem to imply that, but they also don't seem to say anything. So we have to go with what's before us, as I said. So just waiting for a motion. If it was community planning that was concerned, then we could say landscape plan to the satisfaction of the director of planning, etc. But planning is not asking for this. You're telling us as a sort of not directly that you've reached agreement and you're going to do a landscape plan. Your client is retaining a landscape architect to do a plan, but if they don't agree, then we're making a decision here today.
They have engaged, through the whole process, discussions with regards to the landscaping, because this was brought up by the building inspector. It wasn't a complaint from the neighbors that the house was being built too big. It was upon building inspector moving on to different phases that had asked, to double check the height. So once that came about, that's when we started to change and apply for it.
Yeah, but
so it wasn't the neighbor that had noticed that it was big. It was just when they received a letter and they decided to voice their opinion, and rightly so, because the first time around they were also concerned.
Well, I'm looking at the
then,
dates here, but they raised their objection their letter is dated, the recommendation from city planning is July 29th, and their letter is dated before that, correct? In any event,
correct.
It's on the other hand, we're looking at the renderings. It's a beautiful modern house, and I assume that for their own purposes, your client will want to have a attractive landscape plan in the back of this magnificent house that they're building. But the issue is we can't tie it to a landscape plan that the city department is not requested and we don't have, and you're saying doesn't even exist.
Right. And that's something that my client is, doing in good faith and working with the neighbor.
Okay.
At the end of the day, we all want to be able to do that because we got to wake up in the morning and say hi to everybody. So,
like I said, we've done where the city is asking for landscaping. We could say it's subject to satisfaction of the director of planning on a landscape plan, but where it's the neighbor, we can't say that.
Correct.
Unless the committee member asks you to commit to some minimum description of landscaping, but I don't, no matter how big you make those trees at the back, it's not going to block the house because, as you say, the neighboring property in the rear is much lower. So even if you put in 20-foot, 30-foot trees, they're still going to see the peak of the roof, the upper part of the house.
That's correct. Because from at the front to the back, it's over 3 meters drop just on our property, and it keeps going down towards Plumstead.
Okay.
Yeah, the neighbor's got an issue with the height, and it's not the delta that this variance is seeking. It's the overall height.
Yes.
And we're just looking at the additional 0.6
Incre-
meters.
Yeah, exactly. So the issue that's before us is the incremental height. The main height is, the overwhelming variance has already been granted. We're just talking about this. And as you say, it's only in a couple of spots, which perhaps committee members, if they're inclined to support, can sort of tie that to that plan. But let's all realize that no matter what you can put, most beautiful landscape plan, they're still gonna see the height of the house behind them because of the grade change. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm prepared to move a motion for approval. Variances requested are minor and meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. And hope that, you get a good agreement with the neighbor. And that's subject to forestry condition number 1.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm gonna tie it,
Yeah.
sorry, to the roof plan A5.
Thank you for that motion, Mr. Palmer. Do we have a seconder for that motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll second it with some commentary.
Okay.
Commentary being that this committee, just over a year ago, approved an application and the roof height was specific to 2 decimal points. This committee approved that very same variance to 2 decimal points. And for whatever reason, somebody decided to disregard the specificity of the approval. That really upsets me. I've got to tell you, I was on the borderline on this from last night until today. I will support the motion. However, I would ask the agent to consider speaking with those that are complicit in the need to come before us today, that at least this member of this committee is not impressed. So I will second the motion, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor. I echo those concerns. You explained it's a measurement issue, and we sometimes do hear this, where people come and they, other people seem to know how to do it, and other people sort of, we measured from a different spot. But I echo Mr. Taylor's concerns, and we just hope it's not a pattern of applications. But you're a long-standing agent that appears before these committees in the city of Toronto. And yes. I know you're not the builder and you're not the architect. You're just the agent.
Well, I am the architect.
Oh, you are the
I'm
architect.
Not the builder. But
okay,
if
you're
they
not the
should
builder.
just read and stick to those drawings, we wouldn't have an issue.
So you're not the one who did the measurement, and you're not coming on site during construction to sort of check those things out in the normal course?
Oh, if I was doing that, I would have caught that right away.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion. We have it seconded. All in favor? You have your approval unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Vieira. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
Okay. Next application, item number 4, 115 17th Street. This is an application to convert the existing duplex into a triplex. There are 3 variances. And we don't have any, we only have Mr. Rosa as the agent appearing on this matter. Mr. Rosa, are you with us?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A very good morning to you and members of the committee.
Okay, and on this application, they don't have anything from Urban Forestry. We have a comment from Transportation. I believe it is, they're okay. Let me just check that.
Yes,
They have no
they're
objection?
satisfied with.
Okay,
Very
so
big
I don't believe
concern
we need a presentation from you, Mr. Rosa, although that's always very entertaining. Let's just see if committee members have any questions for you, or if we're ready to proceed to a motion.
Very good.
Is there construction? This is obviously just internal construction. The site's not getting any bigger.
No, in fact, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to emphasize the position of this particular application is that there is an existing unit within the basement space. There is no construction being proposed except to comply to code issues for life safety, etc.
Sure, and you're deficient a parking spot based on the triplex.
And we're deficient of 1 parking spot. The lot width is what it is, the frontage and the lot area is what it is. There are no additions being proposed. There is an existing basement walkout at the rear that serves this existing dwelling unit that we seek to legalize it in terms of code issues and through zoning as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rosa. Any further questions for Mr. Rosa, or is someone ready to make a motion? And there are no conditions being requested by city staff.
No, but there are urban forestry conditions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are there?
Yep. 2 and 3.
I don't.
I missed that one.
There are no urban forestry conditions.
There are none?
I
My
didn't
mistake.
see any.
You're thinking number 7, I think. I saw, jumps.
Okay.
They comment on a lot of them, but not all of them.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to move for approval. I find the variances to be in keeping with the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and overall I see the application as a good example of gentle intensification. So I move for approval without conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Ms. Roddick, all in favor? Have your approval unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman.
Rosa. Okay, item number 5, 4915 Steeles Avenue West. This is an application to the 1-story commercial building with a drive-through. We have A. Shields as the agent. Is A. Shields
I'm
with
here.
us? I have Sears. All I hear is feedback.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can we get
Perfect.
your name for the record?
Alistair Shields from KLM Planning Partners, Inc.
Okay, and we have also with us Stuart Turk, your neighbor, the neighbor with concerns.
Okay.
Mr. Turk, you're with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, the note from community planning is just advised that a site plan application has been submitted and is under review, and they have no objection to the variances. I'm hearing someone have their microphone on who shouldn't have their microphone on. That's better. Okay, so we have the variance here is the front yard setback and the minimum side yard setback for a corner lot. Is someone's child going to make a presentation on this? Is that Mr. Shield or Mr. Turk?
Yes, that was me. Sorry.
Okay. No problem. Do you want a presentation, or can we just hear from Mr. Turk as to what your objection is? You're at 6595 Steeles. Is that 6595?
Yeah,
Is that right next door, or no? That's
Yeah, so basically,
it's 4915
property-
Steeles. This is for 46.
Yeah. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So this property, 2 side yards would be attached to my property. Basically, the north side of the south side of the property and the west side of the property would be adjoining my property. So the side yard setbacks being closer to my property are a concern to me, one. Secondly, the traffic issues, ingress and egress are a concern to me for both safety and just overall problems that we have with the overall area right now. Where are they showing the driveway on the plan right now?
Okay, first of all, Mr. Turk, I think there's a typo on your address. Your address is 4995 or 4695?
I own both.
Okay, but the property in question, 46 would be, I'm looking at the location map, but it's hard to see the numbers on it.
Yeah, so
46.
I rep both sides of this property.
I see. Well, there's
There's-
Signet
there's-
and then
there's
there's
one building.
Steels.
So what's the second
Yeah, so
address on Steels? 49?
I own, 4965, 4945. We own the Signet frontage
Yes.
and the Steel.
Yeah. Okay, so your concern, specifically
I
the
have
issue.
multiple-
So first of all, what type of a drive-through is this going to be? Like a Tim Hortons or a McDonald's, or what's the proposed use for the drive-through? Mr. Shields? Oh, okay.
What kind of drive-through is it? I couldn't hear.
Yeah, I know. I'm asking Mr. Shields what this is. What's there now? It's
Nothing. It's
vacant.
vacant.
Okay, so they want to build like a drive-through. I'm just curious. Is it a fast food restaurant or
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's for a Starbucks.
a Starbucks? Okay. Okay, Mr. Turk, you like Starbucks coffee?
Not particularly.
Okay,
I find it
I'm
just-
sorry. I'm just making, now that we know what it is. It's a Starbucks as
It's
opposed
also-
to
it's also-
a
it's also-
that can change
it's
anyway,
also-
right?
Okay, so my concerns with the setbacks are that I am abutting both sides of the property, and they want to be very, very close. So obviously, if we're going to entertain reduced side yard setbacks, we would have to make sure that there is more than ample landscape buffer on both sides that abut my property. My concern is that they have not allowed enough buffer for any serious growth of trees to exist long term. That's one of my concerns. My other concern is safety. This happens to be a very difficult intersection, which the owner knows. I believe they already own the property adjacent to this, where they have a Tim Hortons. And there's a lot of accidents right now happening at this intersection because cars are stopping to queue on Signet most of the time to get into the address, into the Tim Hortons, and trucks and cars are driving around them, and it's only a two-lane highway, two-lane roadway. So we're getting multiple accidents as it is. Now, the access that you have for the Starbucks, is it on Steels and Signet or just on Signet?
Yeah. Well,
Or
the
is it
question
both?
is, the committee has to decide is, do the variances affect what you're saying, or is it just the fact that it's corner property, it's going to have a drive-through? Is it all occasioned by the front
Well,
yard
I
setback being, I guess it's,
I think the committee has to back up a minute and look at the safety concerns of having a drive-through at this very busy intersection without having a little bit more study done on it before somebody gets killed. And then everybody's going to look back and say, how do we let this happen?
yeah, like I
This is-
said,
this is
that,
number
with the planning department, we were dealing with the minor variances, so we have to see how those two issues impact what you're saying. It may be
Okay, I
entirely
don't-
true, but if it would have been the same, I guess the issue is the front lot line. I don't know whether it's considered which is the front because it's a corner lot. But planning doesn't seem to have any problems. They are in site plans, so some of those issues perhaps would be dealt with. Trees, site plan is not a public process, unfortunately, for you to be involved with.
Okay,
Have
so
have
then
you,
if
Mr.
we're-
Church, did Mr. Shields or his client have any discussions with you at all?
No,
They
he's
didn't
not.
reach out to you or anything? Okay.
Nobody's reached out to us. My biggest concern is
And
that
you didn't
I
reach
own
out to
the
them?
frontages. I don't even know who they are.
Okay.
They have a numbered company. There's nowhere to reach. But anyhow, it's their obligation to reach me out of courtesy. They're the ones who want to build, not me,
Yes.
right? So
No, you're
That's
here, you're
normally
appearing,
the-
if you're raising your concerns at this juncture, that's fine. So let's
Yeah,
see,
can I finish my concerns?
sure.
Thank you. I own two sides of the property where they want to build. They want to reduce their setback. I have no problem if there's a reduced setback if there is ample planting between our properties. And I don't mean little shrubs. I'm talking about mature trees so that we don't have to look out of our windows and front doors at the back of their structure where they're probably going to be keeping their garbage
Uh-huh.
and everything else, right? This is my concern. Also, there's probably going to be, I'm assuming they're going to want to put parking in the rear, or transportation, trucks, and it's just too close. I mean, there's not that much. What's going to be the reduction? How many meters are there going to be separation between us, our property, and their structure once they get if they get the reduction?
All right. Okay, Mr. Shields, would you like to respond to Mr. Turk's concerns, and then we'll see if committee members have any questions for you, or does anyone have any questions first for the neighbor? And I guess you haven't seen where they propose. Maybe Mr. Shields can say where they propose to put the garbage containers, but I guess you're on both sides, so you're affected either way. I don't know if you have a preference. So, Mr. Shields, can you please respond to that? And I guess you didn't reach out to, your client didn't reach out to the property owner most affected by this?
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, I guess my client did not reach out to the neighbor. But I will note that the reduced side yards that we're looking at are on the Steeles Avenue and Signet Avenue side. So we're moving the building closer to the intersection, further away from the neighbor's property.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then speaking to landscaping, etc., there's an ornamental metal fence proposed along the entirety of the shared property line. The garbage collection area is at the southwest corner of our property, so abutting the neighbor's property, but it is screened by fairly significant landscaping. So it should be visible from Mr. Turk's side.
Okay, you're currently in site plan. You've submitted a site
Correct.
plan. Okay, it's under review by the city.
Correct.
Okay, anything else you'd like to add, or I'll take it into committee for either further questions or for a decision? Mr. Shields, you're
I have
finished in your
At
rebuttal?
this time.
Is there
Yep.
any? Okay. Okay, any questions for either the applicant or for the neighbor? And if there's no further questions, is someone ready to make a motion or have a discussion?
Mr. Chair, I find the variances to be minor in nature and satisfying the other tests under the Planning Act, and I move for approval without no conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Do we have a seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Palmer. All in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you, Mr. Turk. Thank you, Mr. Shields.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, which is item number 6. 8 Kings Point Drive. This is an application to legalize and maintain the creation of additional units located in the lower level. The building will contain a total of 17 units, so there's currently 16. There is one variance. The lot area for each dwelling unit and apartment is minimum is 139 square meters. In this case, it's 79.82 square meters. So 80 square meters versus one, I don't know what that converts to in square footage, but I believe that is there's a letter order to comply, there's a cover letter, there's rental housing communication form, and we have planning. Planning just has a condition of approval suggested in the event of an approval. They wish a condition of approval that it be built substantially in accordance with the revised plan submitted July the 7th, 2020. And with us on this item, we have just the agent registered, Maxim Merchazin. Maxim.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning.
Good morning, committee.
Okay.
My name is Max Merchazin. I'm here in behalf of 8 Kings Point Drive.
Okay, so there's 17 units proposed.
Yes, sir.
There's an order to comply.
So
Dated
sorry, not
November.
17 unit proposed. We're proposing 1 unit.
Yes, that's right. You're 16, you're looking to go to 17. And I saw there
Yes,
was
sir.
an order to comply on this property back
Yes, sir.
from 2018 November. You've seen the planning position. You're okay with that?
Yes, sir. We are actually, yeah, I've seen the planning position. We are willing to satisfy all the proposed improvements on the site.
Okay, they've determined you don't need a rental housing demolition and conversion application.
That's
See
true.
on this. Yeah, you've submitted revised plans. You've now designated storage area with sufficient screening and 10 designated bicycle parking. So
Yes,
now
sir.
their planning seems to be okay, subject to compliance with that condition. That condition is acceptable to you and your client?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're willing to satisfy all
So
the
let's see.
conditions.
There's no one here in opposition. We've no letters of opposition or anything. So let's see if committee members have any questions for you, or if we're ready for a motion.
Sir, I'm just reading the condition from the planning department. And there's a sentence that says, any other variances that may appear on these plans but are not listed in the written decision are not authorized. Are you aware of any other variances that appear on the plans?
So that was exactly my question to the zoning department as soon as we got the planning report. We actually verified if there could be something that was forgotten when we applied the application. The answer was that no, everything actually the way it is, this is the only variance. Because I wanted to make sure that we don't have to come back.
Yeah, Mr. Taylor, in my experience, that's just sort of standard wording that they state. They often state that. It's not that there's something hidden meaning there, that they see that there's something there that they think may have not been identified. It's just pretty standard wording.
It is standard wording, and it's just there to cover in case a variance was missed, whether on a waiver or even a zoning review, that an applicant doesn't think they're entitled to a variance without having to come back to committee.
Okay, that's fine. I just don't want to grant an approval that isn't an approval. At any rate, I find the proposal to be in keeping with the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move for approval without conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Okay. Sophia Ruddick seconds the motion. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee. Have a good day.
Okay. The next item was an item 18 Hearn Hill. It's an application for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, and there are 4 variances. I have a note here that this matter is to be deferred. Madam Secretary Treasurer?
So
First of all, we have, this is Franco Romano is the agent on this application. Mr. Romano, are you with us?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
Good, and also we have the neighbors with us from 16 Hearne, 19 Hearne, and 20 Hearne. I've read some of their letters. Very interesting application.
Sorry.
But I see we have a request here. There's a note here about this matter being deferred. Madam Secretary Treasurer, is that a request,
Yes,
or is that required, or?
They obtained a new zoning review, and variance was missed from the original notice. We have rescheduled it for August 27th. The notice has been mailed. I'm not sure if the neighbors have received the notice yet, but we have rescheduled it for August 27th.
Okay, are the neighbors on the line with us?
No, the neighbors are not on the line, but staff have reached out to them and notified them that it has been rescheduled, so they will be present on August 27th.
Okay, and that's good, and that means they haven't spent the last hour and a half on the line with us, so that's good that they were advised. So there was a variance just missing. It was an inadvertent error in identifying from the original zoning review.
Can I ask, was that for the flat roof? Because it looked like they reduced the height of the flat roof, but they still needed the variance for the flat roof, and it wasn't in the notice?
I don't have the information before you. Maybe Mr. Romano is aware.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman, the flat roof height variance under the bylaw was the missed variance. So that variance is now identified in the public hearing notice that is being issued for August 27th, and I have received that one.
Okay. Okay, and Mr. Romano, I guess you've dealt the letters, you've read the letters, so you know what you're up against when this matter comes back in 2 weeks.
Yes, I've had some outreach, and I'll try again.
Okay, I know you do. Can I have a motion for deferral, please, to the August 27th?
I'll move for deferral, is it 26th or 27th?
27th.
27th, to August 27th.
Thank you. Seconder for that motion. Thank you, Ms. Reddick. All in favor? Okay, matter's been deferred. Item number 8, 57 Beverly Hills Drive. We have with us just the agent, Iraj Nasrollahi, who's the owner of the property. This is an application to operate a vehicle dealership. And then we have a parking deficiency of parking other than the cars being displayed, like parking for visitors. There's a deficiency of 3 parking spots. 8 required, 5 provided, and we have no communication from city departments or from area neighbors. So that's the one variance. Are you with us? Is the agent here, the owner here? Nazra Ali? Iraj? Do we have a Raj? Okay. Okay, let's skip over and do number 9. Number 9 is to legalize and maintain the existing dwelling. There are 5 variances. Planning is recommending refusal. This is to legalize and maintain where are my notes here? We have appearing with us on this matter Roberto Palacios, who's the owner of the property.
Yes.
Roberto?
Yes.
Okay, so you were at committee July 18, 2019. You to build a new dwelling with a detached garage. And there are objection letters here.
How many are there? Is there we just saw one. We have 2 supports and 1 objection.
Who's speaking? Is that?
It's my wife.
Mrs.
Okay, we need her name.
We need to get her name if she's going to speak.
Okay, it's Jennifer, and the last name is Petracone, Petracone.
Okay, we have a letter from... Actually, there's no address. The Raffington, Mr. and Mrs. Raffington?
Oh, that one wasn't...
Oh, the owner's at 50. It's 50. They say he's an experienced property developer. Did you see that letter?
No, the only one I saw was the one from 39 Deerhurst.
Okay, it says
And
this
then we
apparent
have
that the builder's
report.
intent was to deviate from the established parameters. The structure was designed and built to exceed the maximum permitted lot coverage on all 5 fronts. The experienced developer, and they're the owner next door. Then we have another
Number
letter from 39.
Yeah. Yeah, that one we know.
And I guess just the letter that was attached also to 39. It's just they attached it.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have a copy of the previous decision. We have a copy of the planning report. You've read the planning report?
Yes, we have.
Okay, they're recommending that refusal of the application. So please let us know, can you just give us a brief presentation, let us know how this happened?
So I'm the owner and the builder.
Yes.
We've been designing this house for 10 years now. And so we hire an architect, and this is what we want. supposed to put it. I need 4 feet on either side so that we can have the proper garage and all that. And it was all agreed. However, we were fine signed off when plans were put in motion. I guess certain tweaks that they did, I didn't notice that, and hence we're here.
So the architect who kind of pulled out of the matter when we had to go back to committee and tried to make it look like we didn't want him to represent, he sent a letter into the city. There was a lot of miscommunication and misguidance. We're first-time builders. Like, we have, you know, my husband is a contractor and builds, but this is first time like we've ever built a house. The guidance wasn't there. So apparently, I think what the problem was from what we agreed to with the architect to what was submitted in the application was different. And then when we went to build,
we see all the discrepancies.
It went, and we didn't build like to go against what was allowed. We built to what we thought we had agreed on, if that makes any sense. And then when we had the surveyors come and then do the as-built survey, and then we found these were off. These measurements were off.
So the architect that represented you at the committee, Van Lee Architects, where you came to committee in July 2019, you were given you asked for and were given, I believe. You didn't get anything refused. You asked for the side yard setbacks, small variance from 1.8 to 1.39, 1.3, and a small height variance of 0.18 of a meter.
Right.
Okay, so your position is you just inadvertently built beyond what was permitted, so you now have a lot coverage, you have a lot front yard setback, and the side yards were slightly more than you were permitted. You also, the height is slightly, little bit more than you asked for and got last time. So you have additional variances. And committee planning is saying it's not in keeping. Okay, so let's see if committee members have any questions for you. We also have support letters, and we have objection letters, the 2 objection letters we discussed earlier. Committee members, do you have any questions for the homeowner? And you're saying this is the only first house that you built? And you built it yourself?
It's our house, right? Okay. Yeah, it's our house. So.
Are you is this a house that you're living in, or it's a house that you're doing as a...
We're moving in there.
Sorry?
We're moving in there, sorry.
We're hoping to move in there very soon.
I see, okay. So they're saying you're an experienced property developer, and we believe it was a deliberate action to violate city bylaws. Yeah. You would disagree with that?
I don't know why we disagree with that 100%. Okay.
Yeah, they are sort of... Anyway, let's see if committee members have any questions for you. It isn't an egregious or huge difference from what you got approval for, so in terms of the variances you have, it's slightly more than the side yard. So the question for the committee is whether this was an honest mistake, and they have to put themselves in the position of, if you had asked for this back when you were here in 2019, would they have granted it? In other words, the fact that it has already been built, the committee is to draw no adverse inference, either for or against. They have to put themselves in the position of, would they have approved this had been requested back at the initially?
Are we waiting to hear from anyone else?
No.
No? I just want to make a comment here. The applicant says they've owned this property for 10 years, been planning this for 10 years.
No. Sorry, we haven't owned it for 10 years. The
First
planning
of
of
all, we're in committee. He's making a motion. He's not asking you a question. Unless he makes you a question, you would have been muted, but the staff person's on the phone with someone else.
Okay, they've been planning this for a long period of time. They came to the committee last year. They've got a generous sized lot. So I find it hard to believe that they accidentally built it too wide and too high. I really find that hard to believe. And I look at the street, and this house is completely out of character with everything else on that street. So I'm going to move for refusal. Okay. I don't find these variances minor. I find them out of character with the zoning bylaw and official plan.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer.
It's not desirable or appropriate, and I don't like it when people come back here several times after they've received an approval. So I'm moving for refusal.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for the motion, seconded by Sophia Ruddick. Any discussion? Would you like to add anything to that, Sophia?
No, thank you, nothing to add. I share those concerns.
Thank you. All in favor? The application is refused. Okay, thank you. We're gonna have to move on to, we'll go back to number 8 then. We have the applicant on the line for number 8. Oh, but he's back now. Okay, 57 Beverly Hills Drive. It's an application to operate a vehicle dealership. We already introduced this just before, just the deficiency of 3 visitor parking spots. It's not for the cars being displayed, but for the parking on the site. So there's a deficiency of 3 spots. We have no comments from city departments. We have a cover letter, and that's all we have. And the plans and everything submitted with the application. Is Iraj Nasrohali there, please? You there?
Mr. Nasrallahi, stop. If you could just refrain from muting and unmuting yourself, I will unmute you and mute you back. Mr. Nasrallahi, are you with us?
Hello?
Oh, there he is. Hello?
Hello?
Is that Mr. Nasrohali?
Yes.
Okay, so I just introduced you. We had a skip. You were having some connectivity matters. I'm happy you're with us. Welcome. I just introduced your application. So the only variance before us is a deficiency of 3 parking spots. We haven't heard from city departments, planning, or transportation have not weighed in. So that's what's before us. We just have an application for this dealership, and you're deficient 3 parking spots. Let's see if committee members have any questions for you, or if someone's ready to make a motion on this application.
Hello?
Yes. Sir,
Hi,
would you like
can
to
you
add
hear-
anything to your, do you like to advise the committee of anything? I've advised the committee that all we have before us is a deficiency of 3 parking spots.
Yes, exactly. Just the 3 spots of the parkings. That's the deficiency. And sorry, my name is Masood, and I'm talking on behalf of the owner regarding this matter.
Okay, so you're not arrested. We have to get your name and address for the record from staff. You're appearing as
Masood
agent?
Yes, Masood Salimi.
Can you spell your last name?
Salimi.
Okay,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Solani, thank you. Let's see if committee members have any questions or if they're ready to make a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion. I'm taking some comfort in the fact that the asphalt driveway at the north end of the building would presumably allow for parallel parking for an extra couple of cars if need be. I'm satisfied that the variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Mr. Palmer. All in favor? You have your approval unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, have a good day. Okay, item number 10 is 57 16th Street. It's an application to construct a 2nd-story addition and to enclose the front porch. There are 3 variances. And on this application, we have Ian Cunha as the agent. Mr. Cunha, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Good
so we
morning.
have 3 variances here. Planning is asking for a condition of approval that it be substantially in accordance with one of the plans. We have urban forestry requesting conditions 2 and 4. And
Yes, sir. This is an enclosed porch that has been enclosed for a number of years. The survey from 1999 already shows this as being enclosed. When my client was rebuilding the old house, They came across some structural deficiencies of the front porch. So this house doesn't even have a basement. So there was a lot of rot in the members. So when they rebuilt the front porch, they required a building permit, and that's where we were told that we had to go to the committee of adjustment.
Okay. And planning is okay, they just want it tied to the architectural plan submitted July the 10th and held on file?
Yeah, we made some changes to make them happier regarding the steps coming from the front porch.
Yeah.
They were originally on city property, and now they're completely on private property.
Right, and they're indicating that the setback of 0.27 of a meter is required for the closed front porch, and that the second floor addition setback is 3.29. So I guess that's what they want to make sure that that maintains.
Correct.
And they say it's in keeping with the existing pattern of the setbacks in the area, and that houses in the immediate area have similar setbacks on their front lot lines. So
Correct.
let's see if committee members have any questions for you, or if someone's ready to make a motion. We do have urban forestry. You're aware of the urban forestry conditions?
I am. There's no construction to be done, so I'm not sure why we have forestry.
Yeah, they're first
but
asking for a
I'll
deferral.
deal with forestry if this committee grants us the application.
Okay, someone ready to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I find the application to be in keeping with the four tests under the Planning Act, and I move for approval subject to urban forestry condition number 2 and the planning condition regarding compliance with submitted drawings.
Yeah, to be built substantially in accordance with the architectural plans. The first, is it there also, I had urban forestry 2 and 4. Is it just 2 or is it 2 and 4? Oh, 4 is the deferral. Oh, I see. They were asking yes in their first memo. August 4th. Okay, so condition number 2. We have a seconder for that motion. Thank you, Ms. Reddick. All in favor? Unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Cunha. Item number 11, 27 Ovida Avenue. It's an application for, another new dwelling with an attached garage. There are 3 variances. We have planning memos, transportation. We have letters of objection, or the right one here? Oh, sorry, my computer jumped down to the item number 21. My mistake. Go back to number 11, and we have Zoran Stambuk with us. Zoran?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. I hope you didn't give you.
Good morning.
I scared you there. I was reading a different application.
Yes.
So all we have is we have nothing on this application other than urban forestry requesting looking for a deferral. So.
Sorry? We are not looking for deferral.
No, not you. Urban forestry, their standard, they were concerned with the trees, so they've sent in, have you seen, sent in a memo.
Yes, yes, we received.
Were you dealing with urban forestry on this?
Yes, we are dealing with urban forestry. Actually, our client, Mr. Ozelas, has already submitted urban forestry request for removal for 2 trees. One has been approved and removed and replanted, and the other one he was advised to actually wait for a committee of adjustment decision by Mr. Max Dida from urban forestry, and of course, in case of approval for this minor variances, we're going to proceed and continue that process.
Yeah, there's a process, I guess. In this case, it's a city-owned tree, and you would have to apply to the denial by urban forestry, you have to go through city council or community council. So you're aware of that process, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Committee members, any questions for Mr. Stanbuck? And if not, are we ready for a motion? We do have the opposition letters. No comment from city planning.
I'm prepared to move a motion, variances requested or minor, and meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act, so I move for approval.
Okay, thank you. Seconder for that motion?
I'll second it, but I want to clarify something. The forestry memo that I have says deferral, or should we decide not to defer, to impose condition number 2. Are we all in agreement with that?
Yes.
So I would second it, subject to urban forestry condition number 2, which pertains to a proposal to injure or remove a private tree.
Yes, so that's the privately owned Norway maple measuring 74 centimeters that's identified in their letter. So the applicant is aware, I'm sure he's gone through that. In this case, he would have to appeal their denial. They're denying it, and they have to go to city council or community council on this. But that's beyond us. So your motion is correct. Your suggestion is correct. Accepted by Mr. Palmer. All in favor? You have unanimous approval. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, you have your variance. Okay, item number 12 is 7 Wadsworth Boulevard, and it's an application for a 2-story front addition. And there are 3 variances. And we have several letters of opposition. That's all we have. We have appearing on this application Michael Lafreniere as who's going to represent the applicant. He's the owner or an agent.
Hello, I'm here. I'm the architect.
Okay, welcome. And we also have the neighbors at 263 Wadsworth. Are they all with us here? So we have David Curry, Lou Conforti, Paul Dinner, and Julia Dinner. So I assume we're going to have, they're all going to speak. We'd like to have just one speaker for the dinners at number 3. Let's first hear a guess from the applicant, and we don't have any conditions. There's no urban forestry or any other city conditions or planning condition on this application. So let's hear from Mr. Lafreniere. Would you like to give us a brief presentation, sir?
Yes. I'd like to point out there's also 2 letters of support on the file, which you didn't point out. But
can you try speaking a little clearly into your phone? You're sort of tailing off.
Support on the file as well. But anyway, the variances are for the lot area, the lot frontage, and the FSI. The lot is a legally existing lot, so I don't know if I need to speak to that because the lot already exists. If you want me to, I can.
You can't change your lot. It's not like you're asking to, sever the lot or anything. The lot is the lot is. So we have the lot frontage and the lot area.
Of a recent severance, which is going to come to the floor. But regarding this particular application, it doesn't really matter because the lot is the lot.
Right. And then your variance for floor space index looks to be, I'm a little confused because it says it's 0.4 to 0.4. It's only over by like less than a meter.
It's less than a meter. The variances are very small on the list. The circumstances surrounding the application are what are really at issue here. But in terms of the application, I don't really think much is at issue. There's no objection from the planner. We've also consulted with the counselor who doesn't have an opposition to it. But just so everyone knows what the history of the site is, I'll just do a quick summary. So we applied for a building permit in 2018 on the project. and there are no variances on that building permit because this was pre-severance. And before the severance, the lot area was larger, so these 3 variances didn't exist. The construction was by and large finished. I don't know if it's being used or not, but it's been finished for a couple months, maybe more. And the site contained 2 legal lots of record and a plan of subdivision. So last year, we split the lot off as one is entitled to do without going through any special procedures because of the existence of 2 complete lots of record. Thus, the lot became a little smaller, and we had to reapply, yielding these 3 variances, the first 2 of which can't be changed because the lot already exists, and the third one I would argue is quite minor.
Yeah, I don't think you get any more minor than that. It's less than a meter over. But so the issue is you had a building permit to go ahead and do what you did because you didn't think you had any variances, but wasn't the lot already identified as a deficient lot, so you would have had to come here? So
when we made the building permit application, it was before the lot was split in 2. So number 5 and number 7 were one lot.
Right.
So it was an oversized lot when the application was made, and the item was flagged just as the building permit was getting closed, because in the interim, the portion of the lot was split off, and the city staff thought it would be the right action to legalize. Despite the fact that it's quite minor, they asked us to reapply for a new zoning review and go through the process of making sure everything is
okay. So I'm very surprised because that the committee staff has not given us as one of the materials relevant to this application the consent and variance application when these lots were split, and then the 2 lots were created.
There was no consent or variance application because it was 2 legal lots of record. They basically were always 2 lots that had been combined, and you can combine and uncombine them without any special procedures.
So once they were combined, you didn't have to apply to split the lots again?
We did not.
Okay. That complied with the Planning Act? I'm a former lawyer, and sounds like you might have had a planning act if the lots were joined.
It does comply, yes.
Okay, so you never did have to apply to create these lots.
Through the process, it's been highly vetted both by planning staff. The number 5 is going to go before T-Lab, but it's nothing at issue with anyone is the existence of the 2 lots.
I see. Okay. So the neighbors, that's what you're saying, hey, this has already been built. So you didn't have to come to committee for the deficient lots. It's now identified because you're saying when 5 and 7, when they were split, they were previously 1 lot, so you didn't have to do anything through the city in order to go back to using these as 2 lots.
Correct.
Okay, so that's why I'm wondering, we have 3 neighbors here, and there's really not much, so I'm curious to hear what their concerns were, if they just didn't understand, or as we didn't understand what the story is. So you're actually like a less than a meter over, and your lot is what your lot is.
It's a very jargony thing that happened on this site.
Okay. Neighbors, can we just hear something from the neighbors on this? I guess the most directly affected neighbor would be number 3. Is Mr. and Mrs. Dinner there, please? Do we have Mr. and Mrs. Dinner?
Mr. Chair, I believe Julia Dinner will be speaking on behalf of the household.
Okay.
Yes, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Julia Dinner, and yes, I will be speaking on behalf of 3 Wadsworth. Our concerns, it's really not with the variance to increase the square footage. It really is about it's about the water. The changes that they've made to the lot, I think they should be requesting a variance for the area of soft landscaping. It has been reduced to a point where it can't effectively take the water load.
Okay, so you believe that you obviously have no concern with what they're building or what they built, but you're concerned with the landscape, the front soft landscaping. I assume this, I don't know if this went through a zoning review, which would have identified, but your suspicion is that there must be, or they should be, a soft landscaping variance Obviously, soft landscaping doesn't include hard, like interlocking brick or anything like that. It's soft landscaping. So that's your concern. And I guess the effect is, I guess, with rainwater, if there's not enough soft landscaping on the site, or what's your concern about
Yes,
if there's...
They've also changed the grading of the site, which has had some significant impacts to us already. This is the first year that I've lived in this house where my basement has not been dry. I've had standing water in the basement this year. And they're very close. So they're the really the only change that has happened.
Okay, but perhaps that's, I don't know if that's something you discussed with the building department or with the neighbor's architect, or, you know, in terms of pointing that out, or, but that's not something that what is before us here are the 3 variances. So we'll hear back from the applicant. We'll hear what fees, if there's any issue with respect to soft landscaping or not. So let's hear from, is there anything else you'd like to add, Mrs. Dinner, before we move on to your other neighbors?
The only other concern that I have is that they managed to do all these changes without considering the 2 lots and applying for the variances at the time. How is it possible that they can go ahead even though they knew that there were provisions?
Yeah, I had the same concern. I was wondering why they didn't have to come to committee to sever this lot once it was joined, packed together, or the 2 lots would have merged, 5 and 7 together, so they were able to go ahead and split the lots, but it is what it is. So let's hear now from, I guess, the neighbors. We have 2 other neighbors across the street. David Curry from number 2 Wadsworth. Mr.
Yes,
Curry,
hello,
with us?
committee.
Welcome.
Yes, hello, committee. Hi, my name is David Curry. I represent number 2 Wadsworth, please.
Yes. Let us know what your concerns are, please.
Yeah, it was the same thing. If you turn to page A001 of their plans, it says there's 62% front yard soft landscaping, which I believe will create a deficiency in the bylaw, which requires 75% soft landscaping.
Okay, so you're identifying the same concern that your neighbor at number 3 has identified.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what other defects there are in the plan that are not apparent, that haven't been vetted in these drawings yet.
Yeah, well, if they're missing that, then maybe you're suggesting maybe they're missing some other variances that haven't been identified. We'll hear back from the applicant. Yep.
The second point I would like to make, there was an affidavit signed by the owner of the property on July 31st, saying that they would post a public sign to be visible from the sidewalk, requesting people to participate in the Committee of Adjustment.
Yes.
That sign was never posted, so there may be further objection from people in the neighborhood.
Okay, we'll hear back from the applicant on that. He did sign that he posted the sign. It's not a very large sign. I think is it yellow still? Madam Secretary? It's green, yeah. So there wasn't a green sign posted, like it's visible from the sidewalk, but they don't require to put it on a post on the sidewalk. Typically, they put it in a window of the house. Or if there's no house there, they would have to put it up. But they did sign an affidavit, so we'll hear from that as well. Thank you for alerting us to that, Mr. Curry. Anything else?
And the third point, I was going to recommend, perhaps it would be in the developer's interest to submit plans for number 5 and number 7 jointly to ensure that it creates no further defects in their development.
Yeah, he did. I did hear him mention that he said he was going to T-Lab for number 7. So perhaps...
That's right. You've already rejected the proposal for number 7 in January 2020, I think it was.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Curry, other than those 3 points, anything else?
No, thank you. Thank you for listening to me, committee.
Okay. Thank you for making, for your involvement. And then we have Mr. Conforti at number 6.
Yes, it's Marisa Conforti speaking for Lou. I'm his wife.
Okay, we'll make that note.
Okay, and our problem with it is that the lot coverage, not only of the house, but once they put in their driveway, they put in the garage, they put in the window wells, they put in the deck. There is very little soft landscape remaining on that property.
Yes.
And also the elevation aspect of it. And we've owned the house for 20 years. Never once have we had flooding in the basement. In end of July, early August, 2 times.
You're across the street, though. I hear that from the Dinners. at number 3 or next door. So you're saying you have flooding across the street. You're at number
Yes,
6,
it flows
right?
right over the street, right
Wow.
down into our driveway.
Okay, so you're, even though you're across the street, you're saying you still feel that you've had more water this year than you did previous years, as Mrs. Dinner just advised.
Absolutely.
And you are across the street.
Directly across the street, like where
Okay.
the sidewalk is going to be for this property, sort of, it's
Yes.
straight.
Okay,
across the
so
street
all
from our
three
sidewalk
all
and
three
our
neighbors
front
have
lawn.
mentioned the soft landscaping issue and the impact on the ability to absorb rainwater. Anything else other than that?
Basically that. And in terms of variance, because this is the first time I've ever dealt with anything dealing like with your committee, and I'm seeing the variances on lot coverage is already almost 18 to 20% over.
Right.
How can I don't understand how
Yeah,
that's
it's just the
minor.
technical thing. They're saying the lot. He can't do anything with his lot. His lot is his lot
No,
is,
I
but
know
it
you
is a
can't.
deficient lot, so that had to get identified.
Yeah, and how can we justify increasing more, like allowing for more variances on something that's already deficient?
Yeah, well, again, the lot is deficient, and the lot frontage is deficient by 2 meters. It's deficient in area by about 64 meters, but it is what it is. He's just building, but he's building what would be based on the lot size, virtually what he's entitled. He's over by less than a meter. So he's building, he's not asking for a variance as many people do based on the size of the lot, because his lot is already deficient compared to the other lots. So anyway, let's go back then to Mr. Lafreniere, the architect, to respond to the neighbors' concerns. And the big issue appears to be the soft landscaping, front and back. One of them mentioned the front, and the last speaker mentioned, just the whole property, and they mentioned the deck. I think the deck is obviously.
I'm here, so if you want me to address any of the variances, I can indicate that the number 1, number 3, number 5, number 7, and number 9 and number 11 are all deficient lots. So they vary in size from 199 to 311. We're at 306, more or less right in the middle. So.
Okay, so you're saying that many of the
mixed
houses
sizes.
on the street are also deficient and less than.
There's a number of deficiencies. Our variance is again approximately 9 square feet or less than one square meter. In terms of the soft landscaping, we did submit the drawings to the city. We have a zoning review, and nobody noted any soft landscaping deficiency. I think that part of what's going on is right now they've gotten the gravel base ready for the driveway. They may have made the gravel base larger than the driveway is indicated on the drawings. I'm just looking at some photos that the owner sent me, but building permit's not closed, and if they've put more gravel down than they're allowed, they won't be allowed to keep that. So it's not really something that we're asking for. It's not before the committee, and if there's a deficiency in soft landscaping, we'll either have to get that fixed or we'll have to come back here.
That's correct. I was just going to point that out.
So,
yeah.
Or else it would have been flagged by the city when we sent the drawings. And not to say someone can't make a mistake, but.
Okay, and you obviously know that, Ms. Lafreniere, you're obviously, and your client knows that the neighbors. Okay.
In terms of the whole water question, so between number 7 and number 3 is number 5's building lot. So even if there's some minor grading that got done for the driveway, I don't believe that the regrading for the driveway has significantly impacted the water levels, and certainly not to the extent that it's affecting the water levels on the house across the street. So I think it might just be a question of, we had a couple pretty wild storms, particularly in the West End, and if there is a water issue, I don't believe that this is the forum to address it. I'd be happy to review those issues, both soft landscaping and any grading issues with the city at a later date. Plans examiners or building inspectors. So.
Okay.
I have a photo. The owner has actually been on the phone. They've been watching on YouTube. They sent me the photos of the sign in the window. So the sign is, if someone needs that, it's in the window that's just to the left of the front door.
Okay.
It might not be visible, but it seems pretty visible to me. It's a small green sign with green tape on the top and bottom of it.
Just to make sure, signs are required to be visible to the street. So if they're obscured by shrubbery, there's no point putting it in
I
a
have a
window?
photo of it. There's definitely no shrubbery in front of it.
Okay.
It's right in the middle of the window to the left of the front door. If I had a way, I don't know if I can share this somehow with the hearing, but the photo I have shows the sign there.
Sorry?
I didn't post the sign. The owner posted the sign, and the owner signed the affidavit, and the owner
Yes.
sent me the photo of the
Okay.
window with the sign.
Okay, thank you. So you were saying, I was going to echo the same thing, that to let the neighbors know that they've, and Mr. LaFrance, just let me get your opinion. Do you think what's the requirement? 50% there, 75%? You know what the requirement is for soft landscaping in the front yard?
I don't know offhand. I'd have to check and see.
Okay, so just, the neighbors obviously have identified this.
75%. The driveway is permitted to be exempt from the 75% of the front yard soft landscaping.
Okay, so provided it's not an oversized driveway. So just to let you know, and the neighbors should know that they've identified this and they're watching. So like you said, if it turns out there is a landscaping variance, you'll either have to reduce it. You're at the gravel stage now. And obviously you're going to take that into, or if not, you'll have to come back and make another application in the event you are deficient in soft landscaping if a variance was missed. So the neighbors should be aware of that. You're aware of it. You did mention it. I was going to mention it. So that's a very good point for the neighbors to take comfort in that if a variance was missed, you will either have to reduce it on your own accord to make it compliant, or else you'll have to come back to committee and make a fresh application. So having said that, committee members, any follow-up questions for either the neighbors or the applicant, or are we ready for a motion? And as we said, the variance is before us. It's like 9 feet over, and the lot is what the lot is. Nothing we can do about that.
Mr. Chair, I find that the variances meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move for approval without conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. All in favor? Okay, you have unanimous approval. Thank you, neighbors, and thank you, applicant. So we'll move on to application number 13. 1 APPLEDALE Road. We have before on this application, we have Antonella Wild as the agent. No one else registered to speak. This is for a 1-story addition, 1-story front addition on a covered porch. There are 2 variances. Very straightforward application. And on this application, we have support, and I don't think we have anything from city staff. We have Urban Forestry requesting condition number 2. Ms. Wild, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Good morning. Very straightforward application, so I don't think we need a presentation. I'll just see if committee members have any questions for you, or if we're ready for a motion, unless there's something you'd like to add.
No, that's fine. If you have any questions.
Okay. It's just the encroachment of the front porch, and the altered dwelling is 1 meter, 1.61 meter closer to the front yard setback. And this is, I guess, the 1-story addition you're doing, so it's tied in with that. And no neighbors are in opposition, no comment from city staff. We do have a letter of support from your neighbor at number 5 and your neighbor at number 3.
Yes, there should be at least 2, yes.
Yep. Someone ready to make a motion?
I move to approve this variance request. I find that they are minor in nature and consistent with the four tests of the Planning Act.
Thank you, Ms. Reddick. Seconded for that motion. Mr. Taylor, all in favor? Okay, you have unanimous approval. Thank you, Ms. Wild.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Item number 14, 44 Moncton Avenue. Uh, 14. I have a note here, there's going to be a deferral request from the applicant. This is an application to construct a new detached dwelling with an attached garage, and there are 5 variances. We have Urban Forestry requesting either refusal or condition number 3. And I have a note that there's going to be a deferral request to revise the application to save the front yard tree. Is the applicant there? We have Raman Sandhu.
Yes, I'm here.
You're there. We also have quite a number of neighbors present on this application. But sir, if we could start off, we have a letter from you, an email dated July 30th. I don't know if any of the neighbors saw it. That to request deferral. That because the owner wants to keep the front tree, which will be destroyed if you go ahead with the proposal that you have before us. So he wants to do an addition to the existing house rather than new house in order to protect the tree.
Yeah, essentially we want to keep the front wall with foundation to avoid any any detrimental effect.
Okay, in the end event, you want to defer, you don't want to proceed today on what's before us, you want to make changes. Have you, I don't know if any of the neighbors who were with us today, I'm going to go through it, have seen your letter on file, because it was dated July the 30th, or not. So you're requesting deferral to make changes and save the tree.
Yes.
It looks like you're going to go by way of additions rather than a brand new build. So let's see, are there neighbors with us, staff? Okay, neighbors. 41 Moncton, Carlos Fernandez. You with us, Mr. Fernandez?
Good morning. This is Carlos.
Good morning.
So, yeah, just to reiterate what the forestry report had to protect the tree.
Right.
So that's my only concern with this file.
Okay, so the good news is the applicant has sent us a letter, and he's on the phone now. The agent that, or the applicant rather, that he wants to defer the application. He doesn't want to proceed today because he wants to make changes in order to protect that tree that you're concerned with.
Perfect.
So I assume you're in favor, and you will be re-notified when he comes back with a revised application. All the neighbors who are entitled to notice will be re-notified of that. Okay.
Thank you.
So we also have, I guess we don't have to hear from the architect on file, Mr. Bandiera. We have David Tang from Miller Thompson. I don't know who you're representing, Mr. Tang. Welcome. Oh, sorry, I went over number 15. My mistake. Okay, so all we have before us are, sorry, Mr. Fernandez, as well as Matthew Siwiak at 47 Lotharian.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. And what's you're a neighbor?
No, so I'm actually acting on behalf of my elderly father.
Okay.
I'm located on 47 Lothian Avenue, but my father lives at 46 Moncton Avenue, so the neighboring property.
Oh, okay. He's right next door.
He's right next door, yeah.
Okay, so you're here. So I don't know, as you've heard, I don't know if you checked the file, the applicant is asking for a deferral of the application in order to make changes. I don't know what your father's concern was, but it looks like they're not going to be proceeding today. They don't wish to proceed. They wish to make changes in order to protect the front yard tree.
Yeah, so I did see the letter. I guess it's probably still important just for me to express the concerns that we did have on the previous plan, just so I suppose the architect and builder will know when they make the revised plan.
Sure.
So we had 3 concerns over the sections requested. The main concern was section 1020-3040, subsection 1A.
And just don't give me the section of what is it, the front yard setback or the soffit height? What's the matter that you're concerned with?
Yeah, so it's the lot coverage.
I see.
So the requested variance was 30% over the maximum coverage.
Yes.
Which is of course a large change. And then in connection to that, we're also concerned with the total amount of permitted floor space, which was 56%, which is obviously connected to the extension of the lot size.
Yeah.
And, we do understand that it's a two-story dwelling or requested two-story dwelling, but, it is a very large exception that's being looked at. And, from our perspective, it wouldn't necessarily be, minor. And then our final concern is with the rear yard setback. Which is the request is about 37% beyond the regular yard setback.
Okay, sir, just to let you know, when this matter does come back, your father will be re-notified. But just to let you know, we don't strictly look at percentages. I know sometimes it looks like it's rather large. We look at compatibility, whether it fits within the neighborhood. I don't know what your father's lot is. But strictly looking at percentages is not what we typically do. We look at how it fits within the pattern of development and at the impact on the affected neighbors. But your father can rest easy. This application is not proceeding as was presented, and I'll have on the record. And I suggest to the architect that when he does come back, that he at least contact the area residents to give them a heads up. And perhaps explain what the plans are, and that's often a good neighborly thing to do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we have the deferral request before us in order to make changes, which is probably a good thing because the two neighbors were concerned with the tree, or at least one neighbor was concerned with the tree. So a motion to defer.
Mr. Chair, I'll move for deferral to allow for changes to be made.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconded for that, Mr. Palmer. All in favor of the deferral? Okay. We'll see you here again when you come back with revised plans.
Just a quick question before you let me go. So 42 and 46, these are the two neighbors who are present today?
Yeah, 41 Moncton has been before us expressing concern with the tree, and the neighbor's son at 46.
46 and 41.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
so have a good day, and we'll see you back here when you make changes to your application.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, our next application is item number 15. We have two more for the morning session, 15 and 16. So we're making good time here today. So item number 15 is 98 Superior Avenue. It's an application to convert the existing duplex into a triplex. There's two variances: parking deficiency of two parking spots, whereas 3 is provided, and a minimum of 50% landscape. As soft landscaping, in this case, they're providing 46%. We have on this application before us Frank Bandiera as agent.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we actually have David Tang, who will be the agent representing the application.
Okay.
Mr. Bandiero is on the line and will be available for any questions, but Mr. Tang has been unmuted and he will be presenting the application.
Okay, welcome, Mr. Tang. We also have with us Ryan Johnson, the neighbor at 96. And on this application, we have Urban Forestry is requesting a refusal of the application. Condition number 5, which is a refusal. And I believe that's all we have on this.
We don't have quorum. We've lost Sophia.
Oh, we lost Sophia. Okay, we're going to have to wait because Mr. Palmer has left the room, and we now have the virtual member has gone offline.
Sorry,
oh, you're back.
I actually needed just a 2-minute break as well. I thought I would just.
Okay, so Neil did the same. So okay, Neil's back. So now we're all here. So as I said, there's only two.
Yet. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Okay, we can excuse you for this application because Neil is back. Thank you. Okay, so
Mr.
Mark,
Chair, Mr. Chair, if I may, we also have communication from the Heritage Department.
Yes.
And the council are recommending deferral for 6 months.
Yeah, I was just going to look at that. Just for the applicant, Mr. Tang, to be aware, I assume you've seen a memo dated July the 30th from Heritage requesting a you know, a 6-month deferral, which is rather, I'm sure you're not going to be pleased with that. I don't know why they need 6 months. And we have also a letter from the counselor advising that they wish the report of heritage staff to be taken into consideration. That's from Councillor Grimes. So welcome, Mr. Tang.
So good morning, Mr. Chair, members of committee. Thank you for hearing us on this one. Maybe what I should just do is to point out that actually we're going to be asking you to defer this matter. We have seen the Heritage Planners report. We've seen Councillor Grimes' letter, and we've also seen the forestry comments. And what we'd like to do is go back and reconsider the application and perhaps give us an opportunity to have some of those conversations prior to coming back before you again. So I am asking for a deferral of this matter. I am not going to agree to a 6-month deferral, as you can probably imagine. But I do actually want to provide us with sufficient time to do something meaningful. And so I'm going to suggest that perhaps a deferral to the very first meeting in December would be more than adequate for us to deal with all of the matters and to get something back before you and proceed at that time.
Okay, Madam Secretary Treasurer, I don't know if you want perhaps, it's your application, when you're ready to put it back on, if you want to contact, we're not as backed up here as you are downtown. If he notifies us once he's ready to be back on, what type of and I know you can't commit to this, so how long is he looking at?
So we would suggest just saying defer to the next available hearing date, because I don't know what our space will be like, and if it's when he's ready to come back.
Right. So, Mr. Tang, we're in your hands. If you want to just have it deferred sine die, and you'll come back when you're ready and contact staff to put you on the next then available agenda once you're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm just always slightly worried. I'm always just slightly worried about that because, by the time we do that, it may take another 2 months or 3 months. I understand you're not as backed up as downtown. But if we could perhaps just schedule that for December, I know I've got a date. I know I can come back.
I don't even know if we have dates in December set up yet. We don't even have dates.
Oh. All right. Well then, I'm in your hands as to you understand my quandary here.
Yeah.
Wanting to give up a number of months by the time we ask for another hearing date. So.
Like I said, if this application was at the South District, I would share with your concern. I don't think, to set it up we don't have dates. We can't, a date in December is sort of a vague thing anyway. So why don't you just contact staff once you're ready to put it back, and if there's any changes to the application, changes to the variances.
Certainly. So if you would defer it sine die, we'll deal with that.
Okay. So, Mr. Johnson, 96, you're the neighbor. Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
So it looks.
Glad to be here.
I assume you've been listening in. So it looks like Mr. Tang, on behalf of your neighbor, wants to have this matter deferred to deal with all the issues that have been raised with city forestry and with heritage. So they're asking they don't want to hear this application today. They want to put it off to deal with these concerns and perhaps have a fresh look at things. And perhaps they can keep in touch with you as well.
Exactly.
And any other
Okay.
affected
That's
neighbor.
great.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're happy with that?
Ensure that it was under consideration. Yes, I am. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. So, request for a deferral sine die in order to deal with the concerns of heritage and forestry.
Mr. Chair, I'll move for deferral to allow for further consultation with the Heritage Department and the area councillor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconded for that motion. Mr. Ms. Reddick. All in favor? Okay, the matters.
Sophia wasn't here for the full item, so we're going to mark her as absent.
Okay.
If Neil, if you
Fair
could
enough.
second.
As long as we have quorum. Okay, so now we'll proceed to our last item on the morning agenda. Number 16. Sorry.
Mr. Guitberg. Hello. You have 2 devices currently open. If you can please mute one of your devices.
Okay, that's good. Oh,
Mr. Guitberg, you have two devices open. Please log out of one device so that only one device is on at a time.
is he there?
He's there. I heard him talking, but he has two devices open.
So please make sure you're not watching yourself on YouTube.
Mr. Guitberg? Yep, so you have two devices open. As I was saying, it shows you listed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expel your duplicate attendee. So you'll only be on one, okay? Hi, Mr. Guitberg?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, perfect.
So this is for a new detached dwelling with an attached garage. There are 6 variances. And we have neighbors and support. We don't have any communication from city staff. We have urban forestry requesting condition number 4, which is, I guess, a deferral. Is urban forestry requesting a deferral on this? We also have ravines. I believe ravines is okay. It's on the list here. And we have 2 letters of support from 839 Oral York, the next door neighbor, and as well from the neighbor at 835. So you've done your homework. You have both next door neighbors in support of your proposal.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and we have no communication from city planning. What about forestry, sir?
Forestry, I think this was by mistake because we had the latest communication we had yesterday, and I thought it was uploaded to the city website, but it probably was too late for you to consider. So basically, they were saying that we don't need permit from urban forestry because the tree belongs to the ravine, and the only city tree we have is a little oak, which is not within construction area. There's no danger of.
Okay, Mr. Guitberg, have you seen there's a memo here, I guess it was back from April, that they've completed the Ravine Natural Forest Protection's completed a review on the updated arborist report and tree protection plan. We have no further comment. And then it says, please let us know on the route exploratory excavation for trees 4, 15, and 22.
We are working on it. We are working on it right now. So they are doing route exploration under arborist supervision, and I guess it will be done soon. And
okay.
we have no objection from TRCA. So basically, we're good with both.
And like I said, you did your homework. You have your support of both adjacent neighbors, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, that's correct. They are supporting us, and basically I just want to mention that it's a very difficult lot to build on because it's a big difference in the grade between front and the back. The back is much higher than the front, so that basically triggers some of the variances, like for example the front porch projection is because of the number of steps and to reach the main floor.
Okay.
And but we mostly comply with, like, our coverage is under 33%, so 27%. Actually, our setbacks are, except front setback, are all in compliance. The reason we're not compliant with front yard setback is because the odd location of adjacent property. You can see the house sits at the angle and very deep. Yeah, so.
Okay, Mr. Guitberg, another question for you. You have both adjacent neighbors. What about, I'm just looking at the location map. The house behind looks like it's, is the house behind, it looks like it's very well set back on the lot. Look at the house behind on the plan. It looks like it's completely like in the backyard.
Yeah, that's true. But we are in compliance with rear yard setback, and also if you look at the rear elevation of our house, it looks much smaller than the front elevation because of the grade is so much higher. So apparently we have just one step down from the main floor down to the patio. So the house at the back is not elevated at all. And and also there are some trees, and I believe we're proposing some compensation planting as part of the.
Okay, I know there's nothing you can do about the house behind you, but it just looks very strange how far it's set back from the other houses on Humber. I don't know if that's Humber Crest or Humber Vale.
Yeah, I think maybe the reason for that the land behind us was subdivided at some point, and maybe that was an original house.
Okay.
That's just my guess, probably because.
Okay. Anyway, it's existing. Nothing we can do about that. Okay, so let's see if committee members have any questions for you, or if we're ready for a motion on this application. And like I said, we have support from both adjacent neighbors. Is someone ready to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I find the variances to be in keeping with the 4 tests under the Planning Act, and I move for approval without conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Seconder for Mr. Taylor's motion. Thank you, Ms. Reddick. All in favor? Okay, you have your approval, Mr. Gutberg?
Thank you very much.
Okay. And it is now 11:50 and we stand adjourned until 1 p.m. Beauty.
So Sophia, you can stop your video until we come back for 1 o'clock. That way if you're walking around. We can't hear you, you're muted.
I wasn't able to enter through WebEx, so I assume I could click the same link from the email to get back in. So I'll try earlier in case there's any issues.
Sophia, that's correct. If you use the same link, you can even keep your window on and just turn the video off and keep it running if